Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. It is so good to see everybody. Happy New Year. This is the place where we like to gather together as writers, and we talk about writing for writers and by writers. And I'm like a kid in the candy store. I am so happy to see everybody in our chat room and you guys, the faces of you guys here that we haven't seen for a while. And I am ready to start 2022, the new year. I'm a new year on that. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. We're just going to do a kind of a general discussion on some goal setting. And we're going to take two approaches to it. And I'll explain that in a minute. But we do want to say on the air and stuff that we asked for extra prayers for Johnny and Bethany, who are together in Virginia in that terrible, terrible storm that the East Coast has had. And so that's why Johnny's not with us today, is that they don't have power, let alone internet. And so we'll miss them today. Hopefully we will see her next week, and hope she'll probably have a good story to tell us, because writers collect stories from their experiences. Tip number one, right? On that way. But anyway, what we thought we would do today is we're going to kind of talk twofold about goal writing and goal setting. And first is talk about, some of us just aren't goal writers. And some of us, I don't know, you write goals and then you write them on January 4th, and by January 6th, they're forgotten, so or we don't even put them down on paper. So we're going to talk just in general about that, some of maybe the guilt or the failure. And I read an interesting article I'm going to share just a little bit about this morning too on that. And then we're going to follow up with some practical tips too on goal writing. And I know each of us have some tips to share. And Rhonda says her goal is to make goals. That's good, Rhonda. But anyway,
I can relate to that.
Yeah, on that. But we're going to just share all these tips and all these glorious plans. Brandy told us something last night on email that I think is something we really need to put out there, because she's not the only one who feels this way. And I think she was being very honest, where me, I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I like to succeed, so I have to have all these goals. Brandy was honest and really made me stop and think. So Brandy, you want to feel, hopefully you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about what you shared on the email with everybody, because I think that's a good place to start.
All right. Well, let me just start by saying, guys, I'm going to come out of the closet and say I am a naughty girl by not setting goals when I should be setting goals. And everybody talks about goals and how you should, especially as a writer. And I just suck at it. And if that is a bad word to say, I'm sorry, but it's the honest truth. I'm terrible at it. And, for the longest time, I felt like time was not just against me. I thought it was my enemy. I couldn't even see time as something I wanted to deal with. I just wish it would disappear. And goals are really tied to time. And I'm not very good at managing my time. My head will get in a project and I will lose all track of it. And I'll be like, what, where to go? And I'll be like, it's that time already. Oh no. I think a lot of people like me tend to hide that they don't set goals or that they suck at it, because we don't want to hear the external voices of, well, if you don't set a goal, you're going to aim at nothing and you're going to succeed at nothing. Exactly. And that is true. We know that's true. I mean, goodness, I think we are our own worst enemies, my camp of people, because we sit there and we know all of the good things about goal setting. And we know we should do it. We know it's a good idea. We know that if we aim at nothing, we're going to achieve it. And yet we are hardest on ourselves because I think we kind of want to be able to set goals and succeed at them. We just really, I think some of us, for me, I lack skills. I lack the skills to do it. And for many, many years, I lacked the desire to do it. Because I have to be honest with y'all, I am a lazy bones girl at heart. And if you can just, if I could just go through the day and not have to discipline myself, oh, that's such a nasty word, discipline, then I will do it. I am just so lazy. Gosh, when I was a teenager, this is so embarrassing. When I was a teenager, I used to sleep more than I was awake. Okay. Thankfully, I don't do that anymore. And thankfully, I've just recently discovered that was probably due to low vitamin D and some other things that just made me chronically fatigued all the time. But still, when you live a long time with those things, my light is fickle. Hold on a second. Let me just turn it off because I don't want it to fry. Okay, so now it's off and off. Okay, so, setting goals when it comes to the end of the year, the beginning of a new year, I always tend to feel this sense of dread. And I have a suspicion a lot of the rest of you feel the same way. I mean, there are some amazing people out there like Jean who could just set goals and she thrives on goals. And then there's my camp that's just like, oh, the anxiety of setting a goal. I'm going to try it. And maybe this year I'll be able to get one. And just the expectation of trying to set a goal and maybe hit one can be really tough. Some of the things that I've done to try and fix this is just, I'll try and not name them goals, or I will instead make lists and just try and hit some of those lists. But it's still a very overwhelming thing. So, I confided this stuff to my co-admins last night. And I said to them, I'm willing to be your guinea pig if you have any ideas or tips for someone like me who you start talking about goals just goes, oh, and wants to hide. And then I said, oh no, what have I gotten myself into? Because now that means I have to admit to people I suck at goals, and I'm not somebody that's supposed to suck at goals. If you're in administration, you're supposed to be fantastic at goals. If you are a writer, you're supposed to be good at goals. You're supposed to set your goals so you can get work published. And goodness, honestly, I got to admit it, I just need help. And I have to say, 2022 for me is a year of stopping trying to be perfect.
There you go.
Imperfection in this world is the most perfect we're ever going to get. And so I'm just trying to work on doing the best that I can, recognizing my challenges, recognizing my shortcomings, being willing to admit to other people these things and not hide it and pretend to be maybe better or more polished than I am, and then ask for help. And then accountability, because, I can set goals. I usually fall apart like everybody else that has this same trouble when it comes to discipline and walking them out to see them through to the end. So I want to share with you this scripture. Maybe some of you have seen some things going around Facebook. Oh, this year I want to pray for people. So on every Sunday, I'm going to put somebody's name in with a scripture and I will pray for that person. And one of my friends asked me that. And the scripture that came to mind was 2 Corinthians 8:10-12. From the Complete Jewish Bible Version, it says, now it would be to your advantage to finish what you started, so that your eagerness in wanting to commence the project may be matched by your eagerness to complete it, as you contribute from what you have, not by what you don't have. So I'm really taking that to heart as I think about goals and realizing, okay, I have shortcomings, but I do have some assets. So maybe God can help me to work with the things that I already have and expand on them. And maybe if I do that and ask for help and listen and not just be so down on myself about my inability to do well in these, maybe I can learn a little bit more so that by this time next year, I'll be a little bit better about goals and goal setting. And maybe some of the other people that are like me, I can encourage along the way as well. So I want to encourage all you out there that if you suck at goals and keeping goals and hitting goals, you're not alone. And it's okay that you are like that, because not everybody is good at goals,
That's exactly.
setting or completing. They're just everybody's not. Everybody's different, and that's okay. it means we have to work a little bit harder at that. But maybe somebody that is great at goals needs to work a little bit more harder at flexibility or relaxing to find something new in a situation. I mean, we're just different people. So it's not bad. I want to encourage you in that. And I want to encourage you that maybe together we can learn a little bit better how to work something so that we can still be productive in who we are.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for your honesty on that. I don't.
Brandy, I'm hearing, Sandy, if you could mute your mic, please.
Okay.
Brandy, could you put that verse? Could you type it in? Because most of us don't have a complete Jewish version. And that was amazing. I saw in the comments, lots of encouragement. People wanting to know, repeat that verse again, but it's worded different than most of ours.
I love
Thank you. That was
Bible for its Jewishness and for the different way that it translates the original text. So yes, I will do that.
That was so encouraging.
And we're having great comments in the chat. So I encourage you. That's going to be definitely a chat to save. And again, for those of you that come in late, it's so great seeing so many of you here today. We just love having it. And we're starting out our goal talk, and I really appreciate, Brandy, what you said, because I think so often when you hear there's going to be a presentation on goals, we launch right into the to-dos and the tips from people that set goals, which is great, without really acknowledging where everybody's coming from. And your honesty is good. It's something about when you say it out loud, isn't it? That you can hear yourself. A lot of shoulds in there. They had a lot of shoulds, but
yes, I have to keep telling myself not to should on myself.
Yeah, that's exactly right. On that, because we are so different. So I was going to share one thing too, but I don't know if Norma, thank you for what you said. Jan, Melissa, do you have something to encourage Brandy or to reflect on Brandy? Melissa, you said you were not a real good goal setter either, did you?
Yeah, I'm not a good goal setter. But I did come across something the other day that I thought was really good, and I wanted to look into it a little more. And I mentioned that I'd like to share that today. It was a newsletter post from Randy Ingram, and some of you may recognize him as the advanced fiction writing teacher. And he had a post on not doing New Year's resolutions, but instead doing an annual plan. And I really liked how he kind of laid it out and made it so flexible for each person and focused on those SMART goals, those short attainable goals that help you work towards your ultimate goal. And so, yeah, I'm going to share the link to that newsletter post in the chat, and we can put it on the Facebook page too. But, if you guys have the chance to go and read it, I really recommend it. And it may give you some inspiration for approaching your 2022 and how you want to go about goal setting or planning your year.
Yeah. And what about Jan? Do you have something to, at least in response to Brandy's sharing?
Thank you, Brandy. That was great. I've never been one to set big goals for the whole year. I'm good at, okay, this is what I need to get done today, around the house or writing or whatever. And I can usually stay pretty much on task with that. But other than, trying to make it a bigger goal for how much to write each day or how far I have to get, it's not, I'm probably the oldest in the group, and I'm the old school that used to just write everything on a calendar. And then I graduated to the Franklin Planner when I was on staff at church. And then I could have separate spots for each of the different meetings I had to attend, so that I had everybody, I knew what I had to do and where. I'm looking forward to hearing about these programs. Not sure how much I'll use them, but it's interesting to see how they can help keep you on track.
Okay. Well, before we jump into tips, a couple comments I'd like to make. It says, I think something Brandy identified, which is true, is to know yourself, know your limitations, and then create a strategy that works for you. What works for me will not necessarily work for Brandy. on that. And we're caught up in this comparison. Don't we do that as writers? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that comparison. And then we think, oh, we can't. And oh, what is success when it comes to goals anyway? Brandy, you're exactly right. We're not going to have perfection. We're not going to have wholeness. We're humans. There's only one person who's perfect and whole.
My definition of success that God gave me was success is if by the end of the day, I have done God's will, God's way, in God's timing. And if I've hit those three by the end of the day, then I've succeeded.
And you could probably say at the end of the year, at the end of 2022, have you lived that? That is a goal. Wow, that is a wonderful goal. And you guys have referred to that. I'm a goal setter, and I am. That's my personality. But I don't achieve them all, and I don't really care. I know I don't hit 100% of them all. Do I achieve a majority of them? I do. I am a goal setter, but I think that goes back to personality and flexibility. And the thing I wanted to share after we read Brandy's note last night about this was I started thinking, I said, I would tell you guys, I am an Enneagram 3 and an INFJ on the Myers-Briggs. If that's not a goal setter, I don't know what between those two. They really are. I think I was born with a Franklin planner in my hand, Jan. I was born with a calendar in the other. I came out on schedule, and that is my natural lean, where others aren't. And I envy that. Brandy, you mentioned about, envy somebody that's so rigid like me sometimes. I don't always respond to God nudges during the day. See, so there's advantages and disadvantages. No, nothing's perfect. Nothing's perfect on that. But there is some neat articles that I'll have to find the reference for this article again, because I just read it this morning. So I'll put that in the writers on the Facebook page once I find it, once we get off air, about goal setting tips for each Myers-Briggs personality type. And because they look at that some people, I'm just going to read a couple of them, that some people need to verbalize the possibilities, not just write them out, need to verbalize first. Some need to think out loud. Somehow they need to think towards goals with bursts of energy, not just daily. I thought that was interesting. Some people work better spontaneous based on their Myers-Briggs than this is my to-do list each day. Some need to spend time alone. Some need to spend time with people. Some work better in groups, better as individuals. Some people takes them a long time to develop goals. Why do we need these goals all done and in print by January 4th? We don't. You could set a goal July 1st to be done by September 1st, and it still works. There's not a calendar police that's going to come after us type thing on that. Sometimes people need more time for reflection. It was just an interesting article, so I will find the link for that and put that in, because it just really made me think we've got to know who we are first. What is that what gifts God has given us, know our limitations, which is exactly what Brandy said, and then figure out the best strategy on that. So I think that's just my reflection on what Brandy said. Now, Brandy, I don't know if you want to hop in and before we get into tips and do some more reflection or add anything else.
One thing I would like to add is that it's not just our personalities that reflect our ability to make and keep goals. It's also the things that we are handed in life. I have a special needs child, and there is a lot of maintenance with her. And so a lot of my time and energies are spent with her, plus the rest of my 6 children, and being connected with my family. So a lot of my energy goes out there. And so when it comes to pulling back and evaluating my personal goals and my writing goals and things like that, I'm tired. And so our lives and what we're dealing with in the moment, especially if we have some chronic situations, maybe the failed health of a loved one we are helping care for, it reflects our ability to make goals and keep them. And I think we need to be kind to ourselves and recognize that if we're in a tough season, to let some of those things go because they might not be as important as some of the other stuff we're having to deal with.
Flexibility. I like the term hold things lightly. You know, we hold things lightly because, and haven't we learned that the last 2 years with this? We've learned to pivot and be flexible, and I'm tired of pivoting and being flexible, by the way. But anyway, there's weariness to that too. But and be kind to ourselves and give ourselves grace. You know, that what is this? To me, the first of the year is a wonderful opportunity to dream what could be, not what should be. You know, that just came to me. Maybe I should write that one down. But it's what could be with God's guidance, you know, on all that, and what could be the possibilities. And so if you don't reach them all, you know, on that way, and each seasons are exactly right, Brandy. You hit the nail on the head, and you don't consider where you are at this particular time and place. It makes all the difference.
Now, on the other hand, if we're in a season where things are a little bit lighter and we should be focusing on our work, we need to be careful not to slip and give ourselves excuses not to really try to push to reach for those goals. So, you know, it's a balance, one side and the other, you know.
What are our excuses? That's a tough question. It's a tough question to have to do some self-reflection on. But sometimes our excuses, it's easier for me to play the game on my phone and watch HGTV in the afternoon than it is maybe to finish the article I'm working on. To be honest, it is. You know, so that's my excuses on that. Let's share, we got about a half hour here, a little bit more, a half hour. Let's share some of the tips. I know we've talked some general things. Each of us have some tips to share. I've got a few things too, but I think Norma, you were going to start us out with the good old acronym on SMART goals to have us think about that. Maybe talk a little bit about each of the letters a little bit. What do you got for us, Norma?
Okay. I'm in the camp of, I like to set goals, and I think it was Leslie that said in the chat, life often gets in the way of goals.
Yeah.
And with the big family that I have, 4 married children, 2 not married, and 11 grandbabies, and they all live here near me. It gets really crazy. It's a wonderful crazy, but it's still crazy. And then one of the things last year taught me, before I get into what SMART goals are, which most of us probably know, I had COVID, as many of you know, and was in the hospital. And here, the 4th of January, I'm still struggling some. The energy fades, the brain fog is still there at times. And God has shown me, as it's been said, both by you and Brandy and in the chat, we have to give ourselves grace. And a goal, I'm going to show you what I used to interpret for the deaf. This is the sign for goal. You're aiming towards this thing. A goal is just that. It's an aim. As we've said, it's not a have to or I should. We have to learn to take the shoulda, coulda, woulda out of our vocabulary, because that's how Satan likes to use that to play mind games and have us beat ourselves up. But that's one of the things that God showed me with all that's gone on with how bad I had COVID. And with SMART goals, you have to think about obstacles that could come. And the idea is you make these goals short and obtainable, and you think about possibly obstacles or roadblocks that could come up, because we all know things come up all the time. And when we set a goal in obedience, or we decide, okay, God, you want me to write this year, I'm going to do it. And we set out to do it, and we know the enemy comes at us full force. So As always, and we all know this, we begin with prayer. And sometimes at the beginning of the year, I'm so excited about it's a new year, it's a restart, it's a new beginning. And I want to do all these goals. And I write some things down. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot to ask God. So I ask him, please show me which of these, any or all, that that you want me to do. But SMART goals, I'm going to try to share a screen with you if I can. There it is. And Canva and I had a great time doing this last night. I love Canva.
I do too.
So as you can see, SMART goals are specific: who, what, when, where, what, who, what, where, why, and when. They're measurable, because if we don't have a way to measure, some goals can be so lofty, we don't know where we are in the process. They should be achievable. This is what we just talked about. It should be somewhat challenging, but not impossible. And realistic. Be honest with yourself. Can you achieve this goal? And this is where you would want to think of, okay, what's coming up this year? What are the possibilities? Maybe I need to leave some room for flexibility or sickness or whatever. I have I have actually 2 special needs children. They're adults now. But anyway, all of that. And then set, as we've heard this as writers many times, set a deadline. Someday doesn't count as a deadline, y'all. It just doesn't. It needs to be a specific deadline. So I just wanted to share. So that's SMART goal in a nugget. You can just put in your search engine SMART goals and you'll have a plethora of things that pop up. So I just kind of took from all of them and made my own little thing, because then that way I didn't infringe on any copyright rules. Anyway, I wanted to share with you an example of one of my goals, and I want you to see how just simple it can be. My goal is to submit 8 to 10 articles to Christian, either magazines or compilations like Chicken Soup. Okay, that's a goal. Okay, so how do I make that a SMART goal? Well, first, it has to be specific. Okay, that's kind of specific, 8 to 10. Measurable, how am I going to measure it? Well, I'm going to spend 3 to 8 hours a week searching for magazines, their guidelines, their specifics, all of that, and submitting. And then I'm also going to spend 2 to 4 hours a day, 3 to 4 days a week, with my behind in the chair typing. And then time-based, I want to do this by May 1st, 2022.
Wow.
Now, for some people, you're like 8 articles, I could do that in a week. And you probably can. But I know, like we talked about a few minutes ago, being honest. I know with me still struggling with the long COVID, as they call it, and babysitting often for my grandkids and all of that, I'm trying to be realistic instead of, because when I've set goals in the past, I tend to, well, I'm going to do and they're not really realistic goals. And so this year, and then when May 1st comes, or probably middle of April, I'm going to set the next set of goals. Or if I reach this earlier, then I'll set the next set of goals. And that's just, I've learned, years ago, I can't think of the name of the planner now, but it has each month, you break down, at the beginning of the year, you plan your year-long goal. In the beginning of each month, you do the little bites of that year-long goal. What are you going to do that month to make that goal happen? So you can also do the SMART goal at the beginning of each month. And that helped me get more into the goal setting frame of mind instead of looking at the year-long picture, which can be overwhelming.
That's right.
Just take it a little bit at a time. Like the proverbial adage of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And goals are the same. Think of what you, maybe want to do just for the next 2 months. And how are you going to do it? Make it so you can measure it by either time or word count or page count. And just make sure that you're being honest with yourself and ask God to show you what he wants you to do. And keep in mind to be flexible so that when life happens, and remember, it is just a goal. It's not a have to.
I love the sign language. I mean, I love that. That may be one of the things, and the whole concept of seasons, you know, when you want to think it monthly or daily or weekly, what works for you, you know, what works best for you on that. And I have a friend who thinks in quarters, you know, and that's a lot of business think in quarters. But I have another friend who thinks that the year is really divided in 3 ways. It's divided in January through May. It's divided in summer, because summer brings, at least for, I think all of us are Northern Hemisphere, even Isabel's in France, but she's in Northern Hemisphere. Summer brings its whole other different schedule, doesn't it? And then fall through end of the year. So she thinks in 3 chunks. And so when you said May 1st, I thought, boy, that really works well, you know, because we have a tendency, but boy, once summer comes, we might be doing all sorts of other things. So it's interesting, and trying to decide your priorities each day or each week or each month, whatever your rhythm. It's kind of knowing yourself on that. Thank you, Norma. That is great. There was a question earlier about how to even get started on this. So I just want to share just a little bit about my routine that I've done this. I was trying to think how long I've done this, probably 15, 20 years from now, but this is how I think. So I'll share what I do. Is I always at the year end do a year end reflection, and then take a day for the next day or the day after to think about it, think ahead. And what I actually do is take a day where I reflect on the past year. That gets my gears going. It gets me in a reflective mood. It gets me to realize where I am and where God's been working in my life. And how I do this is I reflect on my journal. I take my journal, I reread all my entries from the last year. I don't journal every day. I'm going to tell you guys that. I journal on an average, maybe once a week, and maybe not even that. There's times I've gone a whole month or more without writing a thing in my journal. But then when I'm on retreat, I'm writing every hour. So it's a rhythm of journaling. It's not a rigid journaling that I do. And I literally take my journal out and write. I reread it and I make notes. I just do a year-end summary that I was going to say that here. I wrote it just the other day, December 31st. I said, here I go with my year-end reflection. And I talked to God about it. I said, boy, I really noticed this was my word of the year. This is how it worked. This is how I'm feeling. This is my sense. I didn't do anything with this goal. I write down, I said, I was going to write poetry last year. I didn't write poetry at all. Well, I wrote one poem. I did write one poem, but I didn't get into it like I wanted to. So I write that. And then I put down, I wish I could have had now, you know. So it's a reflection of the year on that. I write that down. I let it rest. It's a prayerful thing that I do, because I always start with prayer, like Norma said. But then I rest for a day, if not 2 days, if not 3 days. I pray again, and then I say, okay, Lord, this is where I sense you're calling me for next year. And I write those. Those are my first 2 steps I do every year. Then I turn to my specific on writing. What am I going to write this year? And a lot of that comes out of that year reflection. I wanted to share with you on reflection questions. Here they are. Emily P. Freeman, who is one of my mentors. I just, if you're not listening to her podcast, she just has a wonderful podcast every Tuesday. She gave 10 questions for reflection and discernment. And so I want to read those 10 questions to you today as an idea of where to start. She is so good. And her 10 questions are, the first 2 are sort of what I said, what worked and what didn't work. And that's, you got to be honest again. Boy, honest has been a key question we've had this time. What worked and what didn't work. to look back on that. I like her third question is, what do I need more of next time? What do I need more of next time? And, it's like we listened to Brandy's reflection about what she could identify what's not working in her life. But to ask yourself, Brandy, what do I need more of? That might identify just that one little goal to aim for, what that micro goal, what do I need more of? Her fourth question is, and this is kind of a hard one to think about, what was the loneliest part? That's kind of hard to reflect back on, isn't it? But that points out to me, I'm an introvert, but I need this community. I need Writers Chat. I need to network, on that. I need that verbal bounce back of feedback where I'm at. Number 5 is, when did I feel most like myself? Boy, if that doesn't identify some core stuff in us, doesn't it? When do I feel most like myself? 6 is, in what areas did I feel my confidence grow? I like both the word confidence there, and I like the word grow. That kind of shows us where God might be calling us. Because when we're coming from our own true selves, our confidence is, we have confidence. God gives us strength in those areas. And we will grow and stretch, and we're willing to step out in faith a lot of times, even though we don't know what's going to happen on that. Number 7 is, who or what have I learned the most from? I call them lamp lighters. Who's around us lighting our lamps, keeping us going, teaching us, what have I learned the most from? 8 is, what are my favorite yeses? Doesn't that give energy? Where did you say yes, Brandy, last year that, does that make you feel? That is a goal, when we say yes to something in a lot of ways. What are my favorite yeses? And of course, number 9's got to be, what were my surest no's? Doesn't that show you where you don't want to go coming up? And number 10 is, what is the one thing I know for sure? I know for sure I am a beloved child of God who calls me to write and companion others. I know that for sure. So that helps me hear his will for me for next year and his goals. So anyway, I thought those were wonderful questions, and maybe I can write those out and put those in our Facebook page later on that. But that is sort of what I do. I collect questions all year round, questions like that, and I stick them in my journal. So when I come to year-end reflection, I've got little pieces of paper with questions on them, that help. I look at those, and usually 1 or 2 of those really just resonate in my heart, that launches me on writing prayerfully where God is leading me in 2022. And then from there, I write my goals. So if that gives you an idea of how a process that I do. And one more thing, and then we'll see what other people have here to share, is I read this last night. Norma shared the word smart. I read the word fish. I've never seen this before. Fish. The F stands for, what is the feeling you want to have more of in 2022? What is the feeling you want more? Is it gratefulness, or is it joy? Is it being creative? I read the other day that writers, though people that think like me, the INFJs, we have a tendency to be so rigid. We think so left brain, we forget our right brain. And I like that. I want to think more free, spontaneous. That's the feeling I would like. Joy, creativity on that. So what is the feeling that you want more of in 2022? The I is, I'm trying to see what the I stands for. What does the I stand for? Well, I think it's what you intentionally want to finish. What do you intentionally want to finish? It might be you want, I didn't actually write down, but I think it was intentional. Intentionally, you want to finish. What do you want to save on financial, for example? What do you want to pay off? What do you want more of? More travel. We're going to travel more in 2022. And that's what we want more of. That's what my husband and I are going to be intentionally deciding what we are going to do on that. The S is spiritual. Where are you going to go spiritually? What Bible verses you're going to memorize? You're going to try to spend more time in prayer. I purposely have already in the calendar retreats I want to go for spiritually. Where are you going to go spiritually? Where's God calling you? It might be a service project, it might be a retreat, it might be to journal more often. And the H is, they called it habit, but I also want to put health because I'm a nurse. I come from the health thing. Where do you want to grow health wise? But you're going to look at your habits, which kind of might be related to some of our excuses on that. Is there a habit you want to make more of? Or is there a habit you want to have less of? I thought that was kind of a neat. I'd never heard of fish before, so that was unique for me. So, and one other idea, and then I'm going to shut up and let you guys share, is Gretchen Rubin shared, make a list of 22 for 22. I love things like this. 22 for 22. So I don't have quite 22 down here yet because I've been thinking, but I'm going to read more. I want to lose 22 pounds in 22. I want to continue my blog posts. It's just something I want to continue too on that. Yeah, there's certain things I want to accomplish around our house. We're going to put new carpet in one bedroom on that. Some of these, so they're all over. There's big goals, little goals, silly goals, but I just went ahead and I'm creating 22 for 22 and I did 21 and 21, by the way. And I looked the other day, 16 of them I think I got done. But anyway, for what it's worth. That's enough of me. Jan, Melissa, Brandy, do you have more to share? We got 15 minutes left before maybe we invite people back to
I don't know. I like that idea of 22 goals for 22. I don't know if I name them goals just because, anxiety with the G word.
Yeah.
But I like I like 22 for 22 thing. I kind of like those things too. So yeah, I can already think of one is to get back to running. Yeah, I got some great ideas, but it'd be neat to have something like that. And I don't know, maybe
and Isabel,
be a
so
little flexible with them.
22 may be too many, and that's okay. I have 20 down right now. And
Well,
that's
see, my thinking is if I make 22, I might hit 10, and that's better
right.
than if I made 0. So,
and there is a power of writing them down. There is a power, and this makes it fun. She doesn't call them goals, by the way. She just calls them my 22 for 22. So you don't even have to label them.
yay.
Yeah. On that, somebody who I'd catch it, Cheryl Lynn said 22 scriptures, memorize 22 scripture verses, one every 2 weeks. So that you can have fun with this. Make them little, make them bigger, whatever you want to do on that. I love that. Jan, Melissa, why don't you got a goal to share, Jan or Melissa, for next year? Something you want to get done?
Figure out where God's guiding me now.
Yeah.
The latest manuscript, Watching Creation, isn't long enough for KDP to publish, so I have to figure out what I'm going to do.
Okay. Play with that. That sounds good. Melissa, what's on your dream list?
Oh, I'm still in the whole phase of where does God want me to go? Because I'm kind of in a lost stage right now. So yeah, just see what he has. A short-term goal I know is to work on finishing my lead magnet and sharing that with my newsletter followers and prospective followers. So that's a short-term goal I will be working on.
On that. Norma, do you have one specific you want to share with us?
My short-term goal is to get back on social media and building an email list. So I have kind of two that go together. Because from being sick, I've done it and been on social media enough just to barely keep my head above water.
I bet.
So that's my goal, is to get back active on there and start doing. For an extrovert, I have a fear of speaking to an extent. Once I get started, I'm fine. But God keeps prompting me to do like Instagram Live, do reels and things like that. And it just, I don't know why it scares me. It just does. So
Yeah.
there you go.
There you go. You've identified your obstacle for that. That's for certain. And stuff. And I was thinking like what Brandy said about getting back running and something for our health and stuff. The John Acuff had a great podcast this last week about micro goals. You know, as a lot of us say we want to lose 20 pounds, 22 pounds, or 22, for example. But it's really, that's too broad. It has to be more specific. And it might just be sure I drink 64 ounces of water each day, or 84, or whatever our goal is. It might just be be sure that's back to specific, isn't it, Norma, the specific goals, but to realistic break. Sometimes micro goals are great, other than these big. What is the one thing we can do in the next month to get us closer to that? And some, who knows on that. I don't know. What do you guys want to do? We got 10 minutes left. Invite people back and have a little discussion, or do you have anything more to share? Let's put it that way. All right. Why don't we come on back in? If you want to have a goal you want to share, or a reflection, or a comment. We were kind of all over on the place a little bit on that. And I'll say to my cohorts, I have to go in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to let you guys do the wrap up, but on that. And a lot of what I heard today was give ourselves some grace and some flexibility on our season in life and where God is calling us on that too, isn't it? And stuff. Anybody have a goal specific, or either a question or a comment? I see some people are list makers. Isn't that funny how some people are list makers and some aren't on that? Sherilyn, what do you have to add?
My goal is to promote my brothers and sisters, mostly writers, promote them more. And because when we promote one another, it promotes the kingdom, and it also encourages us. So, I mean, I promote my brothers and sisters, especially my writer friends, but I want to do it more. You know, I want to do it more, because people have done that for me. And I just think we need to do that. It's all about the kingdom of God. I mean, I know like Melissa writes something totally different than I do, but I would love to promote, not that I could be on her, not to be on everybody's launch team, but if I see somebody's book out there, retweet it, talk about it if I read it, and not just reviews, but just, hey, I read this book and I think you'd like it too, type of thing. And I know God's going to hold me to that goal. So yeah, I want to do that.
I was challenged, and again, this comes from Emily P. Freeman, to think of our networking as writers on 3 levels. Is one, who can we help? Who can we reach and help, which is always good. Writers are so good at that. Who are our colleagues that kind of where we're as a group helping us, where people are currently like at the same place we are. And a lot of us right here are in that. And I have another writers group that we're somewhat a little bit different levels, but we support each other. And then who is a mentor that we can maybe possibly out and network and grow and stretch and may possibly get to know, not just to advance ourselves, but to also help them. And I thought that was a unique way of thinking about networking. A neat goal. Sherilyn, that is a wonderful goal to have.
So please pray for me. And if there's any way I can help you guys, don't hesitate to PM me, or because if you contact me and say, Sherilyn, I got this going on, can you retweet this or can you repost this? I'd be more than happy to. Seriously, I would be. I'd be more than happy to.
Let's help each other. That is great. Super great idea too on that. Another goal or an idea?
I just finished a book manuscript on Christmas Eve. And my goal is to finish a proposal and get it to my agent by Valentine's Day.
Whoa.
And it's currently being edited. I'm having that done before I submit it. And it's a real exciting time for me. I'm climbing out of the cave that I've been in, and it's a good time to look ahead.
Yay. That is good. It is a good time to look ahead.
Praying for you, Rhonda.
That
Thank
is
you.
Awesome.
just a couple comments I just saw in the chat too, but it's helpful to find in-person writers in your area too. And I feel like I keep mentioning Emily this morning, but her comment was it took her about 3 years and she finally picked up the phone and called a couple local writers that she knew she could be open and honest with. She said, can we just have coffee? And they've been meeting maybe quarterly, the three of them, for coffee. And she said it took her a while to discern who those people were locally. And then she had to do it. It wasn't, sometimes I think we could wish we could have this, but sometimes we have to kind of be open and do some active work behind it. And so she did find it, but I thought it was interesting. It took her time to find that. And she had to make it happen eventually on that. And then Sally made the comment, I'd like to finish one thing. Sometimes goals are thrown at us and it gets overwhelming. It can. I agree with that completely. And sometimes they feel like they're other people's goals. And I think when we bathe it in prayer and we take our time and really listen, I don't know if someone else has some advice on that overwhelming, just do one thing at a time. I think one goal at a time might be eating that elephant one bite at a time.
You know what, Jean?
Yeah.
I finally found 3 writer friends, and because of the pandemic and everything that's happening in Virginia, how they tighten and loosen. I'm not willing to go across the river, nor are they willing to come across to my side because we could be stranded.
Yeah.
So we meet on Zoom.
We meet on Zoom.
But one of the things I found for me, because I see that goal and I'm going for it. I mean, to tell you, I can drop dead, but I'm going for that goal. And God has taught me during this time that it will happen in His timing, in His way, and that He will open the doors. I don't have to kick one down or take the hinges off. So I keep saying every time I sit down to write something, okay, God, here it is. It's in your hands. And then I go, oh my God, what have I just said? Well, I've said the truth, for crying out loud. That's what I've said.
Yeah.
And the 2 friends that I have on this side of the river who live very close to me are actually willing to meet for lunch at one of 2 places very close to us. And what has happened is they are so funny and so willing to do anything and everything. They're the extrovert that I am. And one of them on Christmas Day said, I'm picking you up, you're coming over, you can't cancel. And she gave me enough food for 5 days. And then she said, now go get your writing done. You've got dinner the next 5 days.
I love it.
I love it too.
So
What a beautiful gift.
That is. And witness to remind us what we're here for and stuff. While we're still recording, Melissa, do you want to talk about next week? Because I have to go and I'm going to let these guys wrap up. And it was delightful seeing you guys today. But Melissa, tell us about next week.
Sure. Next week, we're going to have Britt Mooney come on, and he's going to talk about speculative fiction and also the spiritual and eternal aspects of why we have to write and tell stories. And I think it's going to be a great presentation. We just love having Britt on, and it's going to be a good time. We encourage you to come.
Love Britt. He's great.
So Jean just stepped out, didn't she? I'm sorry, I missed that.
You had to go.
You got so excited about Britt coming on next week.
I know. It's so funny. Next
He's
week, I'm gonna
great. He's
share a little
great.
more about what he put on. But yeah, so I guess we're just about to the top of the hour, aren't we? So
Yes.
well, thank you everyone for coming on, and we'll hope that those who haven't been able to join us live will catch the recording on YouTube. We'll get that up as soon as we can today, and we'll see you next week. And everyone else here, please stay on for the after party. We'll see you later.